Hello everybody, how's it going? Ben Gothard here, founder of Project Egg, and today I'm here with the main man, Brian Fouts. How you doing today, Brian?
Good, good. Glad to be here.
Absolutely, man. I'm so glad to have you on. And today, Brian is going to be shedding some light on this whole cryptocurrency phenomenon that is occurring now in today's world. And what we're going to be covering in today's workshop are three main things. We're going to be talking about, one, what is cryptocurrency? What exactly is it? Two, what has been the history of cryptocurrency up till now? How did we get from when it first started until now? And three, how do we intelligently invest in cryptocurrency? So, Brian, I'm going to ask you to share a little bit about your story and tell us how you came to be such an authority on this space.
All right, I'll do my best on that one. So, I'm along with my brother Jake Fouts. We're the owners of the Elevation Group, and Elevation Group's been around since 2011, 2010. And we've had more than 50,000 members go through our platform and learn the investing strategies of the wealthy. And that's really what we're passionate about doing, is being the leaders and bringing the right information to the people that need it the most. But that's not where I started out, of course. Just like anybody else, I went to college, got that good degree, and entered the rat race and spent a lot of time there along with my brother until we realized that really didn't have that passion, didn't really have that outcome that we wanted in our lives, and we weren't leading the lives that we knew we were destined for. And so that put us onto a journey to learn financial freedom, investing strategies, and what those people that had that success were actually doing that was different. Because here's the thing: if you want something different in your life, you have to do something different than everyone else around you. And you have to realize that you're a product of your environment. So you have to change your environment. Now, I can go off on a lot of tangents about that, but I'll stick to what we're talking about here. So fast forward years later, my brother Jake and I, we had been mentored and coached by millionaires, even billionaires, became the owners of the Elevation Group, and are now just on this mission to really bring the right strategies to those who need them the most, and which is essentially the path and journey that we went on. And it's not an easy journey to do this kind of stuff, to learn these strategies. I mean, I've literally lost over $500,000 in a very short period of time, and gained $500,000 in a very short period of time. It can be very stressful at times. But that's the experience that I bring to the people, our members, is what we learn, so that they don't have to repeat those same things that we've had to experience. And inside Elevation Group, we go out and we have advisors that are just the experts in everything that they do, whether it's real estate, whether it's starting a business, gold and silver, all of that stuff. And we bring those people to our members. And guess what's happening right now? Cryptocurrency. Cryptocurrency is one of those next big things. It's hot. Everybody's talking about it. And I'm not going to claim to be one of those people that got into it 5-7 years ago and I have 1,000x my returns. Because there's a lot of people out there screaming right now about cryptocurrency and making all these promises and saying, hey, if you invest here, you do this, you're going to 100x your money. I guarantee it. And that's a bunch of BS. Because it is so, and this is something that I've learned from my coaches, my mentors, and people that we have studied, because we studied dozens and dozens of millionaires and successful business owners, is that where there's a lot of noise, there's also a lot of danger as well. And you got to be very careful. And right now, we have members that have lost money in this space, and they've lost a lot because they saw the shiny object, they jumped in, and all of a sudden they lost money. And so it's been our passion, our mission to really help that not happen for other people. And so what we've done here at the Elevation Group is we go out and we find those experts that we trust, that we put our money with. We actually put our money with them. We listen to them, and we actually bring them on board, and we lead our members to them. And that's really what we want to do here. And so through that journey so far, my brother Jake and I have learned quite a bit about this space. And so we come at it from, not that expert person. We come at it from, hey, let's go learn as much as we can, but let's learn the right information from the right people, so that our members can learn the same stuff and have the same success that we've now experienced because of the access that we have and that right knowledge that we have to those people, to the advisors that we're working with right now. So that's really what I want to talk about today is what we've learned so far, just being new to the space just like a lot of other people, but having that different access.
That's incredible. That's incredible. So before we dive into the meat of it, I just have one more question for you, and this may be a business secret, kind of a closed off for Elevation Group members only. But which experts have you consulted in the cryptocurrency field?
So, if you want to know some names, so one of our partners right now that we're working with is Brad Hart. He's started out in stock trading, started his own hedge fund, had incredible returns there, and he brought that experience, that knowledge to the crypto space because they actually are very similar. As if you dive into it, you'll find out they're very similar. If you've been doing stuff in the stock market, been trading there, you can come over and you can see a lot of similarities. But he's been in it since 2009. And so he's been in and he's lost more money than he'll probably even care to admit to. We're talking more than six figures. And it's one of those spaces that if you want to pay the tuition, these people have paid seven figures, meaning they have made $1 million. They've lost millions of dollars in this space as well. So they've had to go through the ropes, go through the routine over the years to really learn how it works. They're not just getting into it because it's hot and crazy right now. They've been in it. They've seen the growth. They've seen the patterns and the volatility. They've seen the big hacks that have happened, people losing tens of millions of dollars. And those are the people that I want to go talk to. They're not the ones that are out there screaming and waving their hands on Facebook and doing those ads where like says, "Hey, listen to me, open up, listen to this link." They're not doing that. They're behind the scenes. That's one individual. Then another individual I'll mention is his name is Mike Agnew. He's also another stock investor and trader who saw this space years ago, and he could see what was happening with it. He saw the technology behind it, and he jumped in. And then Roger Bryan is another individual that I've met and done some stuff with. He has a fund, actually a crypto fund, which is you're going to start seeing those more often. Now, why I like these individuals, and one of the things that they focus on is that they're not looking at the flash in the pan. They're looking at what's behind the scenes. Why is crypto actually a legitimate strategy or investment or asset class right now? And some people don't believe it is a legitimate asset class. They do because they're looking at the technology behind the scenes. That's really where a lot of it lies. And people don't realize how powerful that is and how the impact that it can have on our lives moving forward. You think back into the internet. Some of you on here might not even remember that. But when the internet started to become a thing, it was actually in the 70s. It wasn't in like the 1990s. People always think the 90s is when it became, when it started. It started back in the 70s as an idea, and then it grew, and then it just really got massive in the 1990s, and then had a bubble. And then it kind of came back down, evened out, and now it's just part of our lives that we take for granted. We can't even fathom our lives without the internet, right? For most of us. And so a lot of people are looking at the crypto asset class as sort of the same thing. It's another big disruptor that could be coming down the pipeline that can change our lives. But it's not going to happen overnight. You're seeing a lot of activity right now, and it's very exciting, but it's just the beginning. You think about it, it's only been around since 2010 really, so it is very young right now, and it's probably going to take it time to grow and to evolve. But the things that are going to come out of it, I think, are going to be absolutely amazing. It's just like real estate. Real estate comes and goes, and it has a lot of volatility in it. This is a very volatile asset, and but there's a lot of people right now that are seeing the hype. And they remember missing out on the real estate market. They remember missing out on the internet, and they don't want to miss out here. And I don't think you should want to miss out, or you want to get in right now. You don't want to miss out, but you have to do it with the right information and knowledge.
Absolutely, absolutely. And Brian, I really do thank you for sharing some actual names of the specific investors and the specific experts whose knowledge is really being culminated in this workshop along with your own and your brother's, because I think for those that are listening and watching this right now, like you said, there is so much smoke being blown. There are so many people claiming to be experts that a lot of it's bull. And I think that the reason that this workshop is so necessary is to really cut through that information overload and show people exactly what they need to know, and nothing extra, no fluff. So I want to thank you for that. So let's jump into this. Let's hit the ground running, and let's address that first topic that we started with. What is cryptocurrency? There are so many different terms: cryptocurrency, blockchain, all these different things. What exactly is it?
Yeah, and so everybody has a little bit of a different definition of that, depending if you're a tech person, if you're a trader. And so when people ask me what is cryptocurrency, the answer depends on who you're talking to. But it's essentially a digital asset. That's purely what it is. It's a digital currency that allows you to exchange value, between peer to peer, essentially. And when you think about how we've always done that, if you go back and look at gold and silver or gold coins, that's how we could do it in the past. You're trading something for value, and it's just what two people agree upon. That's really what it is. In back in the day, I'll trade you a horse for some grain or whatever it is, right? It's just what two people agree upon the value is. Cryptocurrency is not really anything different. Bitcoin is worth X number of dollars because the market deems it, or someone is willing to pay X number of dollars for it. And so people are saying, well, but what's the value? What's backing it? It's like, we are, you are. That's what is so important. It's not really a fee. It's not even backed by really fiat. I honestly believe that eventually Bitcoin, the value of it's not going to be based on a fiat currency. It might go away from that and be based upon just what we give it value for. But the really cool thing about what this is that it exists completely digitally. So, and it's backed by, it's not backed by the government either. So, like you look at a dollar bill right now, it's backed by the government. It's worth $1 because the government says so. And there's an unlimited supply of that because the government can print out money. And so that's where we're in right now, is this kind of weird economic situation I won't get into, where the government is just printing money and the value of your dollar is going down. In the cryptocurrency space, let's take Bitcoin as an example. They created the blockchain. The blockchain is, call it a cryptography. So it is an algorithm that is essentially, they claim to be unhackable, that is like a ledger. So think of a bank ledger or your checkbook ledger. Every time you do a transaction, you write down the action, the transaction that happens, and that is your ledger. The blockchain is the exact same thing for every transaction that happens with Bitcoin, except it exists online. It exists in the tens of thousands of computers around the world. And so I'll come to that here in a second, but that's very different because it's decentralized, meaning it's not in one central location. Not one bank controls it, not one checkbook controls it. It is out there publicly. That is, it's really hard to wrap your mind around that when you first get into this space, that it exists everywhere. It is the internet. You can't go change one computer because all the other ones still exist. It's really amazing that it exists everywhere in the world. And so whenever a transaction happens, it gets recorded on what is called the blockchain, which is that technology, and all the computers get updated. And so you can't change history. That's what's so important, is that once a transaction happens, it's recorded essentially for all of time. And that is a different concept than what we're all used to right now. And so making that transition from what we're used to with banks it's a leap that a lot of people it takes some time to get there. And so that's essentially what Bitcoin is in the blockchain. Now, each cryptocurrency might have their own blockchain technology behind it. So like Ethereum has their own, and I'm not going to get into the whole details because there is so much out there, so much information. But let's just stay at the high level. And so cryptocurrency is just an online thing, and it allows people from Australia to do transactions with me here in the US without going through the banks or intermediaries. And there's only a limited supply of it as well. So when the blockchain for, say, Bitcoin is created, they said, hey, there's only going to be X number of coins available. And I think it's 21 million, I think is what they said. Hey, there's only going to be this number, we can only ever have this much of them. So they have a finite number. So that's like, say, gold and silver is the same way. That's why gold is such a, why they like to back that, or like to have the dollar bill backed by gold, because there's only so much ever in existence. You can't create more. Same with cryptocurrency. You can't create more theoretically. So that's what gives it a lot of intrinsic value. And so what else can I say about what cryptocurrency is? Other than it's digital currency. It's potentially, I think it might replace fiat currency as an investment strategy, and it's also trying to solve certain problems. That's one of the things I think is very cool about cryptocurrency. So, as an example, when you go and you want to buy a loaf of bread and use a credit card, right? Who has to be involved in that transaction? Well, you have to, when you swipe your card, you have the store. They're involved. They have their bank involved. You have your bank involved. You have all these different people that have to be involved in this transaction. Cryptocurrency is a little bit different. It's peer-to-peer, essentially. It's person-to-person. There's no third party involved. It's essentially you and the other party agreeing on a value, and the transaction is done. And what I mean by that is that I recently was doing a webinar, and somebody said, "Hey, I pay for this course in Bitcoin?" And the other person on the webinar who was speaking was like, "No, we can't do that." I'm like, "Oh, stop. Yes, we can." "Oh, heck yeah, I can." Because look at it this way. So if that person had paid the way that, traditionally, they would have to go get their credit card. They would have to put that credit card in. They would have to pay interest on that credit card. The credit card company would have to get it. They would have to go to our bank, take the money and deposit in our bank. There's a fee there. There's a 3% fee that I have to pay for a merchant account processing person. I mean, there is so many people that have to agree on the transaction to have it happen. Instead, what he did, he called me up on the phone because he didn't really understand how it all worked. And he goes, "Can I do this?" I said, "Yes." And he opened up his little account and goes, "Send it to this number right here." He did, and it was done.
Wow.
It was done. And actually, in that transaction, there was no fee. I don't even think it was just done. We cut out all the banks. There was no credit card involved. It was awesome. And so that when you think of a bank or a credit card company, and they see that, they're like saying, "Oh crap!" The people are able to actually do all this stuff in a quicker way without using those big institutions, and there is a massive potential for a huge impact in our lives just because of that. But here's the other cool thing about what this does, since it's cryptography, is that you can be anonymous. So if I didn't know his name, I would not even have known who that came from, because it was just a series of numbers that came into my account, my Bitcoin account, and it was anonymous. Also, for identity protection, because it's so anonymous, there is so much potential for identity protection that we don't currently have. Because you think about credit cards being hacked, bank accounts being hacked. It doesn't really happen in the Bitcoin world or the cryptocurrency world because of the cryptography behind it. Now, it's still young, so it's still something that's just getting going. Now, there are hackers, because where there's this much money coming in, oh my gosh, people come out of the woodwork and they're going to try to take your money and try to steal it. And it's happening, unfortunately, because people are not familiar with how it all works. People are getting, there's scammers out there. And it's really what we're trying to do with our course, with our platform, is to really help the people so that doesn't happen, but still get into the system and still allow it. But, excuse me. But you think about it, in the whole grand scheme of things out there right now, with the monetary system we have in the world, trillions and trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars of currency out there. This is just a small fraction of it right now. I mean, it's so small, it's almost insignificant, but it's growing. And the big banks haven't even gotten into it yet, but they're keeping their eye on it. So I look at the future as this is going to probably explode. And you're already seeing some of that stuff happening in the past couple months, where it's just starting to grow exponentially because people are starting to see the power of what this has, and they want to get into it. They don't want to miss it. They want to get an opportunity. So that's really what we're trying to help people do, is do that, but with the right knowledge and information.
That's incredible. That's incredible. So, I just have a few quick questions about what exactly it is, and then, I want to move on to the history of crypto. But, we were talking about the blockchain and how that's essentially unhackable, right? Well, as the flow of currency increases, and like you were saying, more people are probably going to be coming into this space from a point of view of, let me try to take people's money. how do we stay protected, and how do we make sure that those hackers do not get in, and that, so it's kind of a two-part question. How do we make sure the hackers don't get our money? How do we make sure the scammers don't get our money? Because if it's that easy to send, it's very easy to scam.
Yes. So look at the blockchain first off, because there's the blockchain technology. It creates that, once again, I said, is that, it's a digital ledger of transactions, and cryptography is the core technology of it, and that's what allows users to interact with the blockchain and record it. And so that's never been hacked, is the blockchain. But in order to get into it, you have to have an intermediary, and that's where a lot of the scams and stuff happens. And without getting too deep into it, there's essentially keys. So you have a public key and a private key. The public key is what is recorded on the blockchain, and that is what shows the transaction or shows the record or records it. And so if you have one Bitcoin, it's tied to that, that public key that shows, hey, this public key owns X, and that's recorded for all of history or all of time. Now the private key is what allows you to access that. That's the key that opens the doorway and allows you to access that currency that is on the blockchain. The private key is extraordinarily important. That is the holy grail. But that is also what can, if you lose that, you lose your Bitcoin, you lose your crypto, it's gone. But it's also what scammers and hackers will try to get. They'll try to get your private key. So as an example, if you posted that online and said, hey, here's my private key, done. You're going to have people stealing your stuff. And once it's gone, it's gone. You cannot go get it back, because once again, this is an unregulated space. I mean, it's the Wild West right now. I mean, there's no sheriff that you can go to and say, hey, they stole my stuff, and they're going to go help you out. It just doesn't really exist. And so understanding how the private key, public key work, that is extremely important. You have to understand exactly how those work. One of the things also is you've got to work with a legitimate exchange. So an exchange is something you can sign up, get an account with, and that allows you to interact with the blockchain, allows you to take fiat currency and exchange it for cryptocurrency. But you have to work with a legitimate one. And then anytime you're going to be doing a transaction, as an example, and let's say you're going to go log into your account and you're going to send cryptocurrency or buy some or send it to your what is called a wallet, which is what stores your information and your keys and your currency, or the information for it. You've got to make sure you double check the numbers that you're putting in and the keys you're putting in, because anytime you type it in, if there's a hacker that's watching what you're doing or in there, they can try to change the keys when you're doing a transaction. It literally is kind of almost scary how they can do that. But one exchange that was hacked, what happened was that people would go in there, they would say, oh, I'm going to go make a transaction. I'm going to trade or send one cryptocurrency coin, whatever you want to call it, Ethereum or Bitcoin, over here. And you do that by putting the specific numbers, private key, public key. What would happen was right before you did the transaction, they would somehow get in there and change the number really quick. And if you didn't notice or see it, you'd be sending them the currency. And once you've done that, you're toast. So always check the numbers, always check the information. So understanding how that works is very important. Also, if there's anybody that is telling you that it's like or feels like a multi-level marketing type of a thing, stay away. Just stay away from anything that says multi-level marketing. That is really it raises a lot of red flags right there when you see that. They're saying, oh, we'll pay you commissions or all this kind of stuff. Anybody that says you have a guaranteed returns, stay away from that as well. There's no such thing, especially in this space, of guaranteed returns. And then every time you go to a website where you interact with the blockchain or your exchanges, check the website, check the address. There's been a couple of cases where somebody duplicated an exchange website, and it'll like just have like a -1 or something in the URL, and they were able to get people to log into that one, give their passwords and keys, and then wipe them out. Now, unfortunately, this kind of stuff happens in this space. There's people out doing this kind of stuff, and there's a lot of people though that are combating it, that are fighting against this though, and that's really what's kind of cool is that we actually just did a video today on our course for our members about this one hack that happened to, I can't remember what the site was, but these hackers came in and they found a loophole, they found a hole in the way that people were accessing their accounts, were able to get in there and actually start making transactions like they were the owners, and sort of siphoning off currency. And they had siphoned off $30 million, and which is a small amount for a lot of these things, but $30 million, that's holy crap. But here's the thing. They were going to siphon off about $180 million because of that loophole. But what we call white hat hackers, which are our good hackers, saw what was happening, came in there, and they used the same loophole and siphoned off $150 million, like took it out of the accounts of the people, so the other people couldn't take it. So they actually protected it by doing the same thing and then put it back in, later on. And so it's kind of cool that you see that happening in this space where we're protecting each other and we're helping each other out, because there's such a massive value happening right now in this space. It's kind of cool to see that kind of stuff happening and hear those stories about people combating it. But there was called the Mt. Gox exchange that got hacked. That's a pretty big one that happened a couple years ago. And that was, I don't remember how many millions, it was insane how much it was. But it was an exchange, stands for, what's it stand for? The Gathering. Magic of the Gathering is what that stands for, Mt. Gox. But it got hacked because they weren't managing the exchange. They weren't managing the technology. They weren't updating it. They weren't protecting it. They didn't have any safeguards in place. And as a result, they got hacked, ended up declaring bankruptcy, and the person that did hack it actually has been arrested and going to be extradited to the U.S. Big trouble, of course, because they got so much out of there. So that there is that kind of stuff happening. But as you'll start to see it, a lot of the big names are starting to emerge that you want to be associated with. So, like as an example, we're currently using quite a bit Coinbase as an exchange to be involved in. Gemini is another one that we're using quite a bit, and then Poloniex is another exchange that we use quite a bit, and then Kraken. Those are kind of like the four of the big names you'll hear about. But since they're so big, everybody wants to get into it, so sometimes it is hard to get an account created. But you're gonna start to see the big names that come out of this, the ones that have the right technology, the right teams, the right owners behind them that are backing them, that are going to be the people that I think are going to hold a lot of the accounts for a lot of people that are safer than some of these ones that are starting up and then don't have any backing, and then next month they might be gone. So it's got to be careful.
Absolutely. And I'm really glad that you brought up some of the exchanges that are a little bit safer, because I was just going to ask you that, but I'm glad you brought that up. So I definitely think that we got a really good understanding of what cryptocurrency is. We talked about the blockchain. We talked about some of the security measures that are in place, and unfortunately some of the people who are trying to come in and hack and scam in some ways that we can make sure to stay vigilant and protect against that. But let's talk a little bit about the history of cryptocurrency. Maybe you could take us back to the early days. And I mean, I know we're still in the very early days, but
yes, that's right now.
Right, maybe we could go to the beginning and just talk about the short, albeit important, history of how we got to where we are today in cryptocurrency.
Well, so I'd recommend anybody who's on here to read the white paper, because the white paper was created by, they really don't know who created it actually, and it's called the Bitcoin White Paper, and it was created by Nakamoto. So it's Satoshi Nakamoto in 2008 wrote this white paper about cryptocurrency, or about the Bitcoin and then the blockchain, and how it could be something that could really be decentralized and how important it could be moving forward. And that was really where it all started right there. Some people don't even really know who Satoshi Nakamoto is. Was it a group? Where did it come out? But they essentially created the technology, the original technology as well, of the blockchain that has since spawned all this. And so I'm not going to dive into what that whole white paper goes through, but it had these groundbreaking ideas that represent cryptocurrency as a decentralized method for doing transactions and moving away from a lot of the big governments and the centralization of our currency. So that's really where it started, was with that white paper. And then since then it has spawned other white papers. So that was for Bitcoin. Other currencies have since then evolved and done the same thing and have their own little white papers and technology behind them. And then once that was created, they took the technology, and then it went out public. Essentially, it was decentralized because it went out to all these different nodes or computers, and they created the 21 million, 21 million Bitcoin on the blockchain, and the rest is history, I guess you could say. But what's happened though is that because of that, you start seeing what we call altcoins, other cryptocurrencies coming out, and what they're trying to do is solve a problem that we see out there right now, and it's how to do these transactions. So Bitcoin was really the one that started it all, but then you have Ethereum, and I'm not going to get into why they all exist. They all have different reasons for existing. Bitcoin exists for one reason, Ethereum for another, Litecoin for another reason, Dragon Chain for this reason. They all have this problem they're trying to solve. So, and that's what's really cool. And so what's so amazing about it is that people can come up with their own ideas. They can look at this technology that exists and say, okay, how can I improve upon it? Is that what value does that provide? And then they go and create that either altcoin or that platform to do it. Now, unfortunately, because of that, you're going to see 9 out of 10 cryptocurrencies that exist today won't exist probably a year or two from now. They're all because they're the good ones are going to come up and they're going to survive. Like I believe in Ethereum, Bitcoin. I like Litecoin as well, and a lot of these other ones are going to go away. Ripple's another one that I'm watching right now as well. It's because of the technology behind it and what it's trying to do. And so even the banks are now starting to play inside this space. But as far as where it created, that's really how it started, was with that white paper and the blockchain technology being created as a way to decentralize everything and have peer-to-peer transactions happen.
That's awesome. That's really cool.
Everybody has their own opinion on how it started, why it started. That's just kind of my, getting into it and really just simply, why does this exist?
Absolutely. So, we talked a lot about what cryptocurrency is. We kind of touched on the history of cryptocurrency, and I think we really set a strong foundation to now talk about how to invest in Bitcoin intelligently. And I really want to focus on that word intelligently because, as all the scammers are coming and doing their things and the hackers are coming in, you also probably have people who just don't know what they're doing. So let's clear all the confusion out and set a precedent and really dive into how to invest in cryptocurrency intelligently.
So before you even say that, you have to say why. That's really what it boils down to, is why are you going to invest in cryptocurrency? And you have to understand your set of rules, as I look at it. And this is something that we really strongly believe in, because a lot of people say they look at it and they see dollar signs. It's like, okay, that's great. But here's the thing. Every successful entrepreneur, business owner that we have worked with, studied, been mentored by, they all have different outcomes and goals of why they're doing something. And so you have to identify what your goal is. Are you going to be a trader? Are you going to trade cryptocurrencies? Are you going to just buy and hold it long term? Are you looking to try to generate cash flow? Very difficult. What is it you're trying to do inside this space? What's your skill sets? Do you have the necessary willpower to be a day trader? Because very, 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 very few day traders are successful. So is that something you want to do? Do you want to learn all about the ins and outs of how it all works? Or do you just want to invest in a few currencies and just ride it out? So that's kind of, I always say, you got to really know that first off. Second off, you have to understand that this is such a volatile space. It's such a young space. Whatever you put into it, you may never get back. You have to understand that you might lose it all, because tomorrow this could go away. And so we're always telling people, don't invest next month's rent into cryptocurrency. That is crazy. Invest something that if you lost it, it would suck, but life goes on. As an example for me, when I first got into it, I put an amount that I was comfortable putting inside there. When it doubled, I took the initial capital back out. And so then I was playing with what I call house money, which is awesome because I'm now back at zero. If it goes away, I'm like, okay, well, I didn't lose any money. I didn't lose my initial capital. So that's one of my rules. So we help our members in our course develop their rules, because rules are made to be what?
Broken.
Followed. Rules are made to be followed.
You're right. You're right. That's why you're the expert here.
So yeah, so that's what if you develop your own set of rules, like I'll never sell a rising stock. When my investment doubles, I pull the capital out. Rule number 3 is this. 4 is this. 5, whatever your rules are, develop your set of rules around your strategy. Have a strategy is one of the big ones, and then follow your rules. That removes the emotion from it, because if you're an emotional investor, you're done. You're screwed. You're going to get eaten up, because when the markets go like this and they crash and they go up and down, what you're seeing is people reacting emotionally. Never sell a rising stock, which people always sell. They sell the stock on the downfall, and they're just reacting based upon emotions. So like when Bitcoin recently took a massive dive, people started selling it like crazy. I held on to mine. I didn't sell it. And I'm back. Right now, it's back up again, and I'm happier than heck I didn't sell it, because if I'd sold it, I would have had to get back in, and I would have lost money if I'd sold it. But one of my rules is don't sell, if it's above this price point. So, and then have an understanding of what this even is and why you like it and how it works. And that's really what I get concerned with is people, they invest inside this space, and I always ask them, what have you invested in before? The most common response is nothing. If you've never invested in anything before, whether it be real estate, stocks and bonds, mutual funds, whatever, and you want to invest in this as your first thing, you need to get the right knowledge and information as fast as possible, because that's really what scares us, is that people are getting into this because of the hype, but they've never invested in anything else. And so most people out there selling information, selling courses, and spewing out all their stuff, they're not giving you that foundation to have the right strategy and the right rules and the right knowledge to successfully enter this space. And that's really what I'm passionate about with my brother and our partners, is that making sure that people that come in, whether they're experienced investors, have never invested before, they know how to trade, give them the right information, the right access to the right people, so that you actually know why you're doing this, but then you have a set of guidelines that you've developed for you, meaning they're not my guidelines, they're yours, that then you can use to make decisions and invest wisely. And so that's really what, for people that who want to get started, is get that right information, understand the technology, understand why do you think this is actually going to be something in the future. And you can develop your own reason by listening to other people's reasons, but just, do you believe in what they're saying or not? So like when I look at this and I say, I look at the blockchain, I look at the technology behind it, I look at all these companies, I look at some of the names and companies that are backing this technology that I respect and I know, and that's, I've come up with my own reasons as to why I believe this is something that's going to be a massive impact on our future, and it could potentially, change the way that we interact with people. And just like 10 years ago, 15 years ago, could you imagine what these things right here were doing in our lives? Most people could not even have comprehended what these do. And we're seeing the cryptocurrency world move even faster from a technological standpoint than cell phones and smartphones may have even moved. It's going to, the next 5 years and 10 years is going to be incredible. There's going to be a lot of things happening, I believe, that are going to, right now, today, we might not even be able to comprehend.
That's awesome. That is incredible. So we got to make sure that we are understanding why we're getting into this space. And I just kind of want to recap a little bit. We're trying to understand why we want to get into the space. We want to come up with rules that, not like the entrepreneur inside me was saying, let's break them, but we got to actually follow those rules that we set for ourselves. And then I think, kind of what you were saying at the end is we need to be looking forward and really trying to figure out what's going to be happening in the future, and how do we need to adjust and pivot in order to be successful given what we see in the future. So can you talk a little bit about what do you think is going to happen in the future? And I know it's difficult to make predictions about it, but how do we best prepare for the future? We have our rules, we have our why, our purpose for doing it, but how do we position ourselves as effectively as possible to move forward with cryptocurrency?
Yeah, it's hard to say because it's so volatile. I mean, it could go away tomorrow. It is probably one of the most volatile assets that most people have seen recently, and just because I mean, it's one of those. It trades 24/7. I mean, that's phenomenal. I mean, in most stock markets, they have a 9 to 4 time frame or whatever it is when it's open. This is 24/7. It's crazy. But as far as moving forward, you got to find something that you believe in around it. So like for me, it's like, okay, what's the technology that I believe in? What's the reasoning behind why I like it? So that's where I got into it. And as far as like impacts I see, international transactions is a great example. It's not exactly easy to move money from my bank to this bank over here in Australia or Austria or Germany. With cryptocurrency, if I memorize a certain series of words, I can walk across a border, I can hop on a plane with $1 billion of essentially currency in my mind or in my pocket, and I don't have to worry about it. If you walk across a border with $15,000 of US dollars in your pocket, you're in trouble. You're going to get stopped and they're going to ask you a lot of questions. So there's that kind of stuff that's going to happen where it's going to start to really break down borders. And I think that is extremely important. As far as regulation and fees, we'll see how that comes, how the governments come in and start to try to play, because they are going to come in and play a little bit, and that's not going to be a bad thing, because they're going to help regulate some of the people that are doing bad things. They're going to come in, and really add some more stability to it and make sure people are following some basic sets of rules. But I look at it from anonymous transactions and identity protection. We're so used to being open right now, like on Facebook. And can you imagine, being able to connect with people that you can right now that, 20 years ago, you couldn't find someone. It was hard to find them. Now you can find them on Facebook usually. It's crazy. But a lot of us are so used to being open that we're not really private anymore. But this is going to bring a little bit of that back when it comes to a monetary transaction standpoint, where you can actually be a little bit more privatized and protected, which I think is very important. And then the big one, this is a big one to me, is controlling your money. People today give up control of your money to the banks, the government, Wall Street. You blindly give them your future, and you hope that your future is going to be taken care of because you give them your money to go invest it. Wall Street is a massive scam. The 401k is absurd. It's a scam. It's legal, unfortunately, and I've been involved in it, and it works for people. It works for people, but it's only been around for 40 plus years. It hasn't been around that long. I mean, there's other strategies in EVG that we talk about that have been around for longer than the 401k, and they're a lot better. But people like the security of being able to give someone your money and then not worry about it, and then you have that supposed comfort or security that in the future you'll be able to live the good life in retirement, which I think is just ridiculous. I think you should live the good life now. You should live the life that you want now. And to do that, it's having control of your own money and having control of your future, and not giving it up to someone like the government or your Wall Street, who essentially they strip away all the wealth out of it anyways, and that's why they're so successful. I always ask people, I said, I'll ask you this question. If I was able to give you an investment that had no risk, would you do it?
It depends on the upside. Depends on the return.
Infinite, because guess what? You're not using any of your own money. So if you had an investment that used none of your own money and you were not at risk, would you do it?
Absolutely.
Okay, that's essentially what Wall Street is doing, because you're giving them your money, you're taking all the risk. They're just taking fees off the top of it. What's their risk? You're the one that is putting it all up front. It is one of the best things for them because you are their cash cow, or the middle class is their cash cow, because we're just giving them the money and they're just stripping off the fees out of it, whether or not you make money or not. And so this is, you look at cryptocurrency, it is a way for people to get control of their money and really to get it out of the hands of the centralization of, like, say, Wall Street, the government, the big banks, and that is very powerful. And I got to be honest, those people are probably a little bit nervous about what this potentially could mean in the future. But once again, it's just getting started. But that one to me is for me is very important for like my family even moving forward. I want them to understand that the more control you have, the more control over your future that you're going to have as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, Brian, I do want to thank you so much for coming on this workshop today. I think you dropped some serious value bombs, and I really do appreciate it. What's the next step here, right? Let's say that everybody who has come on to this workshop and maybe they went back and watched it a couple of times and really dug into all the great information that you shared today. What's the next step for them? How can they go on to learn more about you, more about EVG, and get a little bit more into your ecosystem?
Right. So a couple of resources that I like. Block Geeks is a good one. You can just go Google that one. It's a good free online source for cryptocurrency. It can get kind of overwhelming because there's so much stuff out there, but that's a resource that I like for people that want to get started. We have a quick start guide that is very basic, that just essentially outlines, hey, this is how to get started in cryptocurrency if you want to own a Bitcoin, as an example, right? And you don't have to own one Bitcoin, you can own $10 of Bitcoin, so if you want to just put in $10, here's how to get started. So I can provide from you guys that. We just did a guide on exchanges, what exchanges are, what some of the good ones are. And then we just launched a course, because here's what happened is that people were asking for information. We're doing interviews with people. We have a partner of ours that has been doing this for a long time, is educating a lot of people, and there's just so much noise out there. A lot of our members were asking, hey guys, can we just partner with you guys and you guys just help us and walk us step by step how to do it? So that's why we call it the cryptocurrency course. We're doing a launch here later this month on that one, just to get people that really want to get the right information and knowledge on board. And we hop on live Q&As with them, and we ask the experts exactly the questions you just asked, because there's tax implications that people are not even conscious of right now. People are making a lot of money and then go spending it and not realizing that, hey, you have a massive tax implication here that you need to address. But that's really how I'd recommend doing it, is go to a single source of a site. Try not to listen to all of the noise out there, but go to something like Block Geeks. You can go to our partners, Make More Marbles, Brad Hart. So you can go and look him up. That's a great source of information, and just start to dig into it and walk through the history. So a lot of people they just want to get into it, right? And they want to just make some money. So that's why we did the quick start guide. If you want to do that, go there. But I always recommend going back and saying, okay, why is crypto important to you? What do you believe in what it's doing? And then what's the platform look like? So what I mean by the platform is, what are the players involved? So you have exchanges, you have what is called wallets, you have the blockchain, you have miners, as an example. These are all things that you should be aware of as what they all are. And you just got to start diving into it. But that's why in our course, we walk people through exactly that. Because once you start to understand that information right there, the basics, you can start to create your own set of rules. That's what we're all about, is saying, okay, once you understand why cryptocurrency is important today, what it is, how to get started, then you can start looking at, okay, how do you trade it? How do you own it? How do you invest in it strategically based upon your own strategy and set of rules? And that's really how you start to really can grow wealth inside of it.
That's amazing. So, to everybody listening, I highly encourage you to go look at the Quick Start Guide, and definitely recommend going and applying for that course. I can only imagine that there must be a limited number of spots, so I would highly encourage you to get in there as soon as possible. I will include links to that. They will be readily available to you. Either look down below or it should show up on your screen, but they will be readily available to you. Brian, I want to thank you so much for coming on and sharing all of your knowledge. I know you usually charge tons and tons of money to share this information, and so I really appreciate you coming on and sharing this with the people of Project Egg. So thank you very much for that.
Not a problem. I'm sure it was kind of a shotgun blast, and I probably jumped around quite a bit, but I appreciate the opportunity.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. And to everybody who's listening, thank you. Thank you for being a member of Project Egg. I love you guys. Y'all are why we do this. Take care. Bye.